Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
So I was on eBay late at night and came across this knife. I was actually looking for mini lockbacks. I was on my search for more squirrel hunters, but this one popped up and it was, well, you can see what it looks like. It looks like one of those Frost Mini-EagleEyes, those plastic handled knives with the funky blade, that long blade with the eagle eye. And I saw it and I was like, you know what? That looks kind of cool. And I had never seen one with like a bone handle on it. So it's like, I'm going to go ahead and put a bid in on that and see what happens. And fortunately, no one else bid on it. So I ended up getting it. And you see here, it's not a big knife. It's right at, about 3 inches to 3 1/8 of an inches long or so. And when you get the blade open, the blade is right at 2 1/4 inches with a cutting edge that is right at 2 inches. And the overall length of the knife, let's see here, looks like about 5 3/8 of an inch, so not a big knife at all. But when I got it in my hand, it's like, you know what, that feels pretty good. You got some jimping there to hold the blade there. And it was just a really kind of rock solid build, which is what the seller of the knife had mentioned, that it was well made, and that he mentioned that there is no wobble in the blade, and that blade is really locked in there tight. There is absolutely no wobble. You notice it's got nice brass liners, nickel silver bolsters, and bone handles. He showed both sides, so I knew the bone handles did not match, and they really don't. You see, this one looks almost black, and this one is kind of a brownish color. And surprisingly, the frost shield is still in place. I joke about those. Those kind of fall out. I think they're just held in with a bubblegum spit. But in any case, you see frost cutlery there. Flip it over, and 440 stainless, and then made in Pakistan. But really, for what it is, this knife feels really good in the hand, and it's comfortable to hold. And the blade was surprisingly sharp, even though it was used. I haven't sharpened it yet. I have cut some stuff with it since then. Matter of fact, this is my second take on this video, so you're not going to see the paper test because I ran out of paper cutting up this and all the other knives that I ended up getting after this. You hear that snap? Just a really, the lockup isn't as tight, but it holds really well. Very tight there, and it just feels good. Doesn't look bad either when you get right down to it. I know a lot of people don't like knives with holes in the blade, but that makes it really easy to open. So I can see why Frost followed Spyderco's lead and put a hole in the blade. In any case, after picking this one up, it's like, I wonder how this compares to those cheap plastic ones that Frost makes. Now, I have other cheap plastic Frost knives. This is my Vulture 2, and this is the 4-inch version of this. This is like a 3-inch version. This is the 4-inch version, which is a Vulture 2, and I actually did some batoning with this knife. Actually batoned in the wood, hammering on the back of this with a metal hammer. Not with a piece of wood. I actually pounded on it with the hammer because, who cares? It was a cheap Frost knife. See, Frost surgical steel, China. And actually pounded in the wood, and this knife held up quite well. And the wobble that you see in the blade there, see that little bit of wobble? Well, that wobble was in there even before I did the batoning. It didn't get any worse. So this held up quite well. It's like, well, I wonder, I got to see how those little 3-inch versions of this, the Mini-EagleEye, would hold up. Now, typically the Mini-EagleEyes, they sell them like a jar of 30 for like $28 or something like that, or a jar of 36 for $35 or something. So they're a $1 knife, but I wasn't going to buy a jar of 30, and I didn't have time to run to the Swaparama and go and grab one. So I went ahead and went on eBay, pull the camera back a bit, and I saw somebody selling 4 of them in the wildlife series for something like $9 or $10, and it's like, okay, considering that was with the shipping charges, it's like, okay, considering the shipping and everything, that's kind of about the same thing. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that I paid about a $2.25 for each one of these, so a total of $10, $2.25 for these knives. What I got were these knives, like, notice this, bass fishing with the green fish. I don't know why they left the G off. Maybe they just can only get so many letters in there, but bass fishing, no apostrophe either, so really bad English there. Got the coon hunter with the raccoon on there. This is probably my favorite out of it. I like raccoons. The duck hunter. The only one that had any color on it was the bass fish, and that one has the green fish. Everything else is black on black. Duck hunter and the deer hunter. And the jar would have had 36 knives in there, so you would have gotten, 9 of each version of this in a jar. So you got 9 coon hunters, 9 deer hunter, 9 duck hunter, and 9 bass fishing for $35. I didn't need all that, but 4 of them, and well, I got them, and it's like the handle, it's not the tightest in the world. Little blade wobble going on there, but you know what? If I hold the handle tight, the blade wobble goes away. So I could probably pound on this pivot point and tighten it up a bit. Got a decent enough snap closing, so the spring isn't bad. You see here, made in China, not in Pakistan. Just says frost cutlery. It doesn't say what kind of steel. I'm assuming this is like your 420 surgical steel. So it doesn't even say German stainless. Deer hunter, that one gets hung up a little bit. It's a little harder to open. Don't know why. I don't see any problem inside. But the blade is tighter on this one. So it gets hung up, but the blade is tighter. It doesn't wobble nearly as much. And closes okay. Duck hunter. A little bit of wobble in the blade, but not much. You can see the gapping going on there. It's not, these are exactly what you expect for a $1 knife. They, you know, if you're expecting quality, you're not going to find it in a $1 knife. The duck hunter so far is the best out of them. This one has more wobble than any of them. But despite being wobbly and everything, you see the serrated blade there. They actually cut fairly well straight out of the box, and you know, for $1, got a lanyard hole there too. You know, I can't complain for $1. I mean, is it $1 well spent? Well, that's up to you if it's $1 well spent or not. But it's like, what you're getting for $1 is a cheap knife that you can open a box with, basically, or a cheap knife that you could probably even cut a steak with it, especially with it being serrated. But this is much better than these, but at the same time, I got this for just slightly more than what I paid for all 4 of these. So I would expect it to be 4 times better, and it is really 4 times better. So what I thought is, well, this is an older made one. I wonder what the newer ones are like. Are the newer ones still as good as this is? And so I had to go and buy 2 of the newer versions of this knife, and I'm going to look at those along with these now. So these 2 are really easily found these days. This one, like I said, is a used one. Even though it was made in Pakistan, the guy said it was from about 12 years ago. This one is on the market today, the Renegade Ridge Runner. You can find this just about anywhere. And same with the Silver Hawk, the stainless steel Silver Hawk. There's even a Bill Dance autographed version of the Silver Hawk. And so we'll start with the Ridge Runner here first. Like I said, Ridge Runner Renegade. It came wrapped in paper in a plastic bag, which is the way Frost usually does his knives. They wrap them in paper, you know, the little piece of paper, and then they put it in a plastic bag. And you see here, 3 inches closed knife, high quality polished stainless steel blade, nickel silver bolsters, brass pins and liners, and imported bone handle. I don't know where they imported the bone handle from, considering the knife was made in Pakistan. But anyway, we see here the handle was known as the what do they call it? Second cut stag bone. So it is bone designed to look like second cut stag. Well, what I noticed right away is this second cut stag bone is cracked right down the middle. It's not loose or anything because it's also glued to that brass liner. And really, when I started looking at it, other than that crack in the bone, they really have not changed that much. This one is slightly thinner, a little bit thinner if you notice, ever so slightly thinner. But the bone, other than the crack in it, is much better matched. And the blade is finished about the same way as this one was. You can see it's the jimping here is a little more aggressive than it is on here. So all in all, I was kind of happy with this, other than the crack. But now I've got a cracky also, so I guess I'll have to give it a different name than cracky though, because now Williams Knife Life might get mad at me if I copy off of him. But I do have a cracked knife. Blade opened up pretty well. Much better, much more positive lock on the blade. Lock is very stiff, just as it was on that one. Closes down really well, and it came pretty sharp. And this has the ever popular German stainless Rostfrei, which means this is basically the 4034 stainless steel that Frost uses now. So that's like a 420 high carbon steel versus a 440A. And it came really sharp. Got a nice polish on the blade. You can't tell that from all my fingerprints, but nicely polished blade. And you can see there's the tape and stuff on there from where I was cutting it. I cut open boxes and cut up some cardboard with it and cut up some paper with them just to see how they worked, and they were working really well. So I was very happy with it. And then I got this. Now this was around $9 or so, so it's not an expensive knife. But it is an expensive knife compared to these, which are around $1 or $2. But then I grabbed the Silver Hawk too, just to see how that would be. And I believe this one just came in a plastic bag. I don't think it was wrapped in paper. And you see here, again, 3 inches closed, stainless steel blade and handle, thumb hole for easy operation, and then the warning about how it's going to kill me. Any case, I got this one. I opened it up, and it's like, that is not bad. It's like a brushed stainless steel finish on the outside, so it hides fingerprints and stuff. The blade is not as well polished. As you can see, this one has a much more polished blade, so it's going to hide fingerprints a little bit better. The hole is different on the Silver Hawk versus the Ridge Runner Renegade. This one has the hole that you saw on this knife. This one has a hole similar to these knives. But other than that, you hear that lockup? The lockup was really smooth on this. Much smoother than any other knife in all of the bunch here. And what I also noticed is on these two knives, the blade thickness, if you can see there, is about the same. The blade thickness on this knife, actually, when you get closer to the tip, is a little thicker because the spine goes out there longer, and they don't thin it down as much as on this knife. This knife has a little bit of a swedge going on with it, even though you can't see it. So this one will poke better, but this one has a lot more strength going on down that spine. So the blade steel, the blade is about as thick on both of these. Compared to these knives, the blade is half as thick. Notice that? See how much thinner the blade is, even though these knives are thicker. If you can see that, they're actually thicker. Well, here we go. About the same, but they're a little thicker, I think, because of the plastic handle. And the other thing about this knife, if you look at these knives, oh, come on, open. See how crude the holes are on here? See how crude those holes are? They are just punched out. There's no refinement going on with them at all, as opposed to this knife where the hole has actually been refined like it is on these knives. So, and the difference though between all of these knives, like I said, go for in that $9–10 range. These knives are your $1–2 range. This knife is around the $5–6 mark. So, and to me, this is the best of all of these, is right here. And for $6, I would buy this knife any day of the week. Matter of fact, I am going to buy a couple more of these simply because of how well they fit my hand. They're very comfortable to hold. And I'm guessing it's a 420 steel. Notice these are made in China also, not in Pakistan. The lock is so much smoother on it. And it's just the all stainless steel construction, which looks better. I don't have to worry about a shield falling out, and I don't need to worry about the bone cracking. And well, these are what you expect for a $1 knife. But this, the Silver Hawk, this is not what I was expecting for a $6 knife. This is really, for a $6 knife, this could easily cost more than that. When Sheila Travis says, oh, you can sell these knives $10 any day of the week and all that other stuff. Well, in the case of the Silver Hawk, I think you actually could. You could sell these knives for like 10 or 12 bucks. And no one would complain about it at all because of how well it feels. And it's just a really good cutter. These knives, you can sell those for $1, and these you could sell for, $8–9. But as soon as somebody sees something like that on the back, they're going to want it for $5. But this knife here, all stainless steel, good blade, great lockup. Yeah. This is a $10 or $12 knife that is being sold for $5 or $6. That's my own personal opinion of it, and I am going to pick up a couple more. Anyway, of these, I think the only one I want to keep is the Coon Hunter because I like raccoons. But I'll probably keep them all for a little bit. Anyway, that's the end of this one. I'll give you a couple pictures and we'll move on. Thanks for dropping by Knife Chats with Tobias. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when the next episode is up and online.